Historical antecedents in the course of science and technology. Ancient times. In the ancient times, people were concerned with transportation and navigation, communication and record keeping, mass production, security and protection, as well as health, aesthetics, and architecture. Transportation and navigation. It was significant because people were trying to go places and discover new horizons. They traveled to search for food and find better locations for their settlements. They also traveled to trade their surplus goods and exchange for that they lacked. Navigation assisted them in their journeys to unfamiliar and strange areas in the world. It allowed them to return home after they discovered new place or completed an important trade with another group of people. Communications. This was also essential in their endeavors to discover and occupy new place. They needed a way to communicate with the natives of the areas they visited so as to facilitate trade and prevent possible conflicts. Record keeping. It's needed to remember the place they had been to and document the trades they made with each other. It was also vital to keep records of their history and culture so they could establish their identities as they trade to relate with other cultures and civilizations. Weapons and armors were important as well in the discovery of new place or the establishment of new alliance with another tribes. At that time, there was also a risk of conflict when people meet others with different culture and orientations. The conflict were common, especially in different groups struggled to control vital resources. Stronger nations tended to invade weaker ones so they could take much needed resources. As such, the development of weapons and armors for security and protection was considered a major achievement. Early people ventured on the so-called engineering to integrate their needs for better transportation and establishments of structures for protection from personal attacks and natural disaster and build bigger and stronger infrastructures. Architecture. Others might see architecture as a mere style, but during the ancient times, elaborate architectural designs were indication of technological development of a specific civilization. In the future, architecture will be considered a status symbol among nations of how advanced their technology is. It may also create the identity of nation, may also create the identity of nation. The following are some of the significant technological achievements during the ancient times for early civilization. Sumerian civilization, located on the southernmost tip of ancient Mesopotamia, now southern Iraq. They are known for their high level of cooperation with one another and their desire for great things. Cuneiform is the first writing system that uses world pictures and triangular symbols which are carved on clay using ridge instruments and then left to dry. This allowed them to keep records of things with great historical value or their everyday life. Uruk City. Uruk was the first major city in Sumer belt in the 5th century BC and is considered one of the largest Sumerian settlements and most important religious centers of Mesopotamia. It was continuously inhabited from about 500 BC up to the 5th century AD. It is a great wonder not only because it is the first society in the world but also for the way it was constructed. The Sumerians used only mud or clay for the river mixed with weeds, producing sandbake bricks, a true engineering achievement. The Great Ziggurat of Ur, another engineering and architectural feature, also called the Mountain of God, built like the Uruk city and served as their chief gods, sacred place where only priests are allowed to enter. Irrigation and dikes. This was made as the population increased as well as the demand for food. The Sumerians were challenged to mass-produce food items, but the environmental conditions seemed uncooperative. It was difficult to get water from rivers, thus they could not maintain farmlands. The plow. The Mesopotamia cedar plow was invented around 1500 BCE. The plow was worked by an animal, mainly an oxen, pulling the plow making a furrow in the ground, then seeds being poured into a funnel to be put in the furrows the plow made. Wheel. The wheel was invented to be used in pottery making, but the Mesopotamians soon developed it further into a means of transportation in the form of the chariot around 2400 BC. The oldest known well is the Ljubljana Marshes well, which was discovered in Ljubljana in 2002, dating back 5150 years. Sailboat. Boats were used to carry large quantities of product and were able to cover long distances since they used waterways for their mode of transportation. Such sailboats were made that did not require a lot of human resources. Babylonian civilization. Babylonia was a state in ancient Mesopotamia, the city of Babylon, whose ruins are located in present-day Iraq, was founded more than 4,000 years ago as a small port town on the Euphrates River. It grew into one of the largest cities of the ancient world under the rule of Hammurabi. Hanging Garden of Babylon, one of the seven wonders of the ancient world, but today people can only marvel at the beauty of the famous Hanging Gardens of Babylon from stories of historians and paintings that portray the place.